Hello, once again, I welcome you to Marriage Without Tears channel. This is your ultimate channel for couples who want to make a difference in their marriage, who want to plant seeds that will enable their marriage to fulfill purpose. This is your channel. Today, we are discussing falling in love, or what I may title the art of falling in love. A whole lot of couples have come to me and say, "Sir, how do I know that I am still in love with my spouse?" Because the fervency, the zeal, the joy that accompanied our relationship when we set out is no longer there. And it appears as if we have fallen out of love. How do I know that we are still in love, or that I am still in love with my spouse? That is why we have decided to discuss this topic today. If you are yet to subscribe to my channel, please do so immediately. There's a red button by my side. Once you click on it, you get subscribed and become part of this awesome family. How do we know? How do I know? How do you know that you are still in love with your spouse? That is our subject today. And I'm going to give you 10 critical ways that you will actually know whether you are still in love or not. And if by any reason you are default in a particular area, there are things you can do to uplift your love level, to get your love level speaking again. That is the reason for this very particular edition. And let's just take it from number one. You know that you are still in love when you have the desire to share your world with your spouse, when you have the desire to share your everyday experience, day-by-day experience. You want to be as open as possible. You want to share as much as possible. You can afford to be vulnerable before him or her. You want to share the details. You are eager to share the details of your daily life with your spouse. That is when you know a person that is actually in love. That person, you are free. You are free to share all. You don't care whether, it's the bad side or the positive side or the negative side, but you actually want to share. You are eager to share your daily experience with your spouse. That is where you know of a truth that there is a genuine love inside of your heart. You have that joy to share. That is very, very important. The second way you know that you are in love, actually, is when you think of him or her all the time. In your meditation, in your silent conversation in your heart, it is always about him or her. You are thinking of him, you are meditating about him, you are seeing a future with him. You are always, it's like he is the principal personality in your heart. That's the principal occupant of your heart. Beside God, anyway, this spouse of yours is one of the major occupants of your heart. Then you know, of course, that you are in love. And anytime you think about him or her, there is a genuine joy, a glorious joy inside your spirit. You can break forth in a smile or even in laughter, and everybody is around you is just asking, "What is happening, boy?" or "What is happening, my woman?" And you know that there is something unique about that love. That is when you actually know that you are in love with someone. Of course, the third factor that may make it abundantly clear that you are in love with one another or with that person actually is when there is a teenage sensation in your heart. Anytime you think about him or her, there is a breaking forth of youthfulness. There is an exuberance. There is an excitement inside of you. It's like you never get old. There is a joy in your spirit. You can begin to do things. I've seen women who, when they are in love, as old as they are, maybe in their 40s, in their 50s, even in their 70s, they break forth, they begin to behave like babies. And I've also seen men, whenever they are in love, it's like, they are just kids. There is that excitement, there is that inner joy, there is that inner peace inside of you that comes with being in love. If you lack that, if you lack that excitement, if that glamour, if that joy in you is no longer there, then something is wrong somewhere. So you know you are in love when there is a teenage sensation. As a matter of fact, when you are in love, there are hormones that are injected into the body that makes you look far younger than you ought to be. So that's one of the things that makes you realize that you are actually in love. The joyfulness, the youthfulness, the passion. Love is about passion. Love is also about commitment. Love is also about intimacy. When you are in love, actually, there is that passion, there's that inner joy that brings about that youthfulness. Very important. And of course, the fourth thing that makes you realize that you are actually in love with your spouse is the way you talk to him or the way you minister to one another in conversation. Your communication is spiced with joy, is spiced with, a lot of emotions, a lot of commitment, a lot of, there's a glow that comes through your communication. You don't use rabid words. You don't use caustic remarks. You don't use dirty language when you are speaking with one another. You speak with a joyfulness, a kindness, a compassion. Filled with compassion. Your words are littered with compassion. They are oiled with compassion. That is how you speak to someone you are in love. You speak to that person, having yourself in mind. It's as if you can only use language that you would also like to be used on you. So that is what happens when you are in love. You don't castigate one another. You don't defy one another in communication. You don't mess up with one another, so to speak. So that is what happens when you are in love. And if you lack that, if you discover that you have become a fault finder in the place of conversation, if you discover that somehow you have become more accusatory, sometimes you have become more criticizing of your spouse, then something is happening in your love factor. There is a need for you to fine-tune your love, because I realized over a period of time that if you can fall in love, certainly you can fall out of it. And because you can fall out of love, there are the tendency for you to use certain language when you are no longer really in love with that person. So you need to do something about your communication skill. Communication is very, very important in expressing love to one another. Very, very important. So that is one other area. And before I give you the fifth one, I want to remind us, please, if you are yet to subscribe to my channel, please do so immediately. There's a red button by my side. Click on it and get subscribed. Be part of Marriage Without Tears family. This is actually the video of number 153rd video. So if you can check through our playlist, you will find so many videos that when you watch it, it will augment your marriage. It will make your marriage become better and better as the years go by. So let's go to number 5. Number 5, when you are in love with somebody, that person's become your priority. That person is placed at the top of your priority list. Very, very important. If you're in love with somebody, you create time for that person. You create time to listen. You create time to share in that person's visions and missions. You create time essentially for that person. You don't tell the person that you are in love with, you don't have time for him or her. Because time is very, very essential in demonstrating love. If you have time for that person and you create time for that person and you are always there for that person, then it means that there is a certain level of commitment. And commitment is all about love. Because where there is no commitment, you cannot say that there is love. So it's very, very important for you to know that if you actually love your spouse or your partner, then you must create time for him or her. Listen to their visions and missions. Listen to the voice of their heart. Listen to their challenges and their tasks and whatever is an encumbrance unto them. Listen to them. Hear the voice of their heart. Hear what they are speaking when they are not actually moving their tongues. Very, very important. That is what you gain when you actually create time for that person. It's very, very important. Time is very, very important in demonstrating how much love you have for a particular partner. Very important. The sixth one I must tell you really is that if you are in love with your spouse, one of the signs is that you always hunger for their presence. You want to be around them. Anytime you are around them, you feel at home. Their bosom is your home. Anytime you are around them, you want to hear their voice. You want to hear them speak. You want to perceive them. You want to hold them in your arms. You want to sit with them. You want to go places with them. Their presence becomes very, very essential to you. And anytime you are away from them, you are eager to get back to them. That's what tells you that you are actually in love with a person. I have seen people that when they travel away, I mean, they are out of town, either, for business reasons or for social reasons. Once they are out of town, it's like they don't want to come back. And their spouse will continue calling them, when are you coming back? When are we seeing? When are you coming? And you continue giving one reason or the other. I mean, that is not an aspect, that's not a show of love. What tells a spouse or a partner that you actually, you are actually in love with him or her is the zeal to be around them, the eagerness to be around them. You want to share times with them. You want to share locations with them. You want to share their presence. You want to be in their arms. That is what communicates love to the spouse. That's what tells you that you are actually in love with that person. The seventh thing that can actually make you realize that you are in love with your spouse or with your partner is when other people that are seemingly more attractive than him or her, some other people that are more endowed, when they are around you and you're not concerned about them, it appears as if they are not there. It appears as if they can't foot your bill. Naturally, you know very well that they are better than your spouse. Financially, they are better in terms of attitude. They are better in terms of reason. They are better. But in your heart, it appears as if your spouse or your partner is better. I mean, you don't care about them. Other people around you that are better than your spouse don't matter to you. That's when you realize that there is something unique in your heart concerning that partner of yours. That's when it becomes very clear to you that, I mean, you have swept other people to the dustbin. The primary source of focus is actually your spouse, and your heart is glued to him or her. It's a very big sign that you are actually in love with that person. The eighth thing that you must also realize, when you are in love with your spouse, everything seems right. It appears that you have no hidden agendas. You don't care about the rest of the world. You don't care about anything else. Sometimes your spouse may have a certain level of weakness, but to you, you see that weakness as a place to be conquered. I mean, there is something about that. Because other people may have the same weaknesses and you may come down heavily on them. But when it pertains to your spouse, you have a defense mechanism. There is something in you that tells you that even though your spouse has such weakness, it can be conquered. It's not as bad as it is. So everything seems right. If you have that feeling concerning your spouse, then it tells you clearly that you are in love with that person. That is one very, very critical factor that tells you that you are in love with that person. And I will also give us number 9. Number 9 is that your friends take note that there is something inside of you anytime you are in the presence of such a person. The meaning of that is never lost in the friends around you, because they are able to tell you, oh, once it is Jack, you have something else to say. Once it is another person, you have... Everybody around you knows that there is a unique bond between you and that fellow. So it's not just lost. It's not just about you alone. Your parents will realize that. Your siblings will know that. Your friends will realize that also. Everybody around you knows that there is something unique between two of you. That is one area that you will get to know that, I mean, it's no longer a secret agenda. And before I give you number 10, I would like to ask you, have you subscribed to this channel? It is a unique channel indeed, and if you can be part of this channel, you will learn a whole lot, because here we give you all the tidbits, all the things you need to do in order to run an effectual and effective marriage and family life. So click on this red button by my side, subscribe to this channel, and be part of this family. The final thing I want to say is that once you are in love with somebody, you see a future with them. You see a future with them. You don't just interpret them on the present. You see a future with them. You see your 5 years, your 10 years, your 20 years ahead. You see a future with them. That is one thing that makes you realize that you have come into this very particular relationship with a certain high level of commitment, because commitment is what makes love to thrive. If there's no commitment, then that love will not stand the test of time. That is it. So if you are truly in love with him or her, you will see a future with them. But anytime you begin to think in terms of abandoning ship, you no longer see a future with them. So one of the signs you must also realize when you check yourself and you check your love level and you begin to see possibly down the line, you are going to be there for one another through thick and thin till God knows when. If you have that feeling concerning your spouse, then you are truly in love. But if there is this thing in you that tells you that it is time to abandon ship, then of course, the love has gone sour. I appreciate you and I give you a lot of thumbs up for staying put and listening to all I have to say in this edition. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Have a wonderful time. And before you go, please click on this red button, get subscribed, and let's do this next week. Bye.